Oh, how I miss the drag on my double haul as my pillowy chubby plops ever so gracefully on top of trout-filled water. Buoyant and buggy, carried helplessly away by the current, it is hard to resist if you're a hungry fish. Folks, today we're going to be tying up the classic, the chubby Chernobyl. A tried and true pattern that has been catching fish since you've been in diapers. Geezers and young bucks alike can appreciate the simplicity of a good chubby Chernobyl. Now, the one we're tying today is a slight twist on the original blueprint. You can call it unorthodox, but there is no doubt in my mind it'll get the job done. You can tie them in just about every size, color, and flavor. The fish hoover them up all summer long, and I can never have enough of these in my dang box. Oh, and you see those beads right there? Those can make any and all dry flies adjustable. Yes, you are hearing me correctly, an adjustable dry dropper rig. Go check out the how-to video on your own time because right now it is time to tie this puppy up. Before we dive headfirst into the deep end, let's take a quick peep at my material list. And for those out there that are a bit too anal about their exact fly recipes, this might be the wrong video for you. No two flies of mine are the exact same. Each will have its own little flair or mistake that makes it its own. Think cooking and not baking, folks. But as you can see, this is a super simple recipe regardless. I would encourage you to add any materials you see fit or take any materials that you don't like away. Not everyone likes to make these adjustable, even myself at times. The smaller I tie these chubbies, the less use I have to hold a dry dropper rig. So keep that in mind when you're gathering your materials. But I'm sure anyone watching is smart enough to understand this, so let's stop dilly-dallying and jump right in. For starters, because this is going to be a bigger chubby and that I want it to be adjustable, we're going to start by putting on 4 beads in total on this size 6 stinger. I crimp most of my barbs regardless, but for this situation, it helps the bead slide over the hook a little bit easier. And I like to lock them into their respective positions at the head and the butt of the hook before I ever start adding any other materials. It just makes it so much easier to wrestle with static beads rather than junk sliding up and down in the middle of the tie. But once that's out of the way, we can actually start this fly. Step 1 on the docket is going to be a flashy tail. Not sure why the hell you want a flashy tail, but I think it makes the fly look kind of cool, and any commercial chubby I have ever bought at a fly shop has it. So, I mean, if the pros are doing it, we should do it too, right? I'll let you make the final call on that, but anyway, 3 strands of pearl crystal flash doubled over make the perfect tail when trimmed to size. Too much is better than not enough, so trim long and remedy the issue if proportions look off. Next up, we can start building the body. Find your favorite brand, thickness, and color of foam, and I personally hate cutting lengths with scissors because they always end up being somewhat uneven. I've gotten in the habit of using a big butcher knife on a cutting board to make more uniform lengths of foam. As long as you keep a steady hand, 10 minutes later, you're gonna have enough foam lengths for years of tying. But for this particular fly, I'm gonna be grabbing 2 different sizes of foam. I'm gonna be adding 1 super skinny strip of foam off the back, and this is important for the underbody. Right on top of that, I'm going to add another wider length of brown foam for the main body section of this fly. For most of my flies, I tie with heavy thread, but this could not be more important when you are tying with foam. The thicker thread allows for a better bite on the foam without the risk of A, snapping the thread, or B, ripping the foam itself. Especially for the first point of connection, make sure those thread wraps are nice and snug because it is time to make the first of 2 wing sections. The Antron wool is what gives the chubby its plushy, pillow-like plop on the water, and when you put enough gink or whatever floating you like to use in those fibers, this fly will float long and strong like the USS Enterprise through any whitewater riffle holding fish. But again, much like the foam, I like to use more than a few strong thread wraps to lock this in as well. Okie doke, with the wings and the foam in place, it is time to give this thing some surface area. Find your favorite brand, color, and size of rubber legs and slap a pair on either side. The more even these legs sit, the more balanced the overall fly weight will be when it's distributed across the water's surface. This is one of the more key components of this fly, and I would suggest not getting lazy with it. Plus, The legs, they really help give this chubby an undeniably buggy look. So to any of you out there who are still sticking with me at this point, well, thank you for sticking around, but this is the time to get your listening ears on, because this is going to be the hardest part of this fly. Remember that thin strip of foam we tied in? Yeah, don't worry, I didn't forget about it. It's time to take that and wrap it around our fly to make the underbelly. As frustrating as this step may be, I'm fairly satisfied with how it turns out in the end. I'll explain why I decided to do this a bit later. Just know I have a method for my madness, at least more cases than not. But easy does it with stretching that foam and take it slow. Wrap it all the way forward and back again to create a plump body before you lock in the thread wraps all the way across the fly. Once you have your body wraps fully secure, folks, we are halfway done with this fly. And the cool thing about this fly is that it's all rinse and repeat from here. So we're gonna do the exact same steps, and I'm gonna try and speed it through because, well, we already did them. So secure that foam, toss on the antron yarn, and do this while maintaining those strong thread wraps, remember that. And next, add your pair of legs on either side, and boom, we are sitting pretty, folks. We're just about done. Now, full transparency here, I did add a slight dubbing noodle to kind of finish out this fly, but this is purely for aesthetic purposes. You do not need this extra bit of dubbing. I did it, it's dumb, don't do it. But give your fly 1 or 2 very good whip finishes just behind the bead, and now we can kind of get to trimming this fly down, because it does take a bit of trimming. So when you get to cleaning up this fly, be very careful with what you decide to cut. You can always take away legs, you can always take away foam, and you can always cut more wings, but you can never put that back on. So my rule of thumb is to always be a bit more conservative and then taper it down as I see fit. Usually I trim once, if not twice, to really get that buggy look I desire. But that right there is one chubby ready for the box, and more importantly, ready for the stream. Well, there we go, folks. That is one chubby Chernobyl ready for the box. And I wouldn't call this a traditional chubby by any means, but these flies are so deadly effective, and they can represent a wide range of bugs. We're talking stoneflies, we're talking ants, we're talking hoppers. I mean, you name it, salmon flies even. They're such a versatile bug, and I mean, as you can see, pretty much anywhere you go, they are versatile, and they're tried and true. They've caught fish. And I don't know, as my season kind of progressed last summer, I found myself having issues, well, number one, keeping these in my box because the fish just, they hoover them up, but also with a lot of sinking. So previously I would use the body material, just be like dubbing or even just thread. And this year I'm trying to do a different route. So I'm wrapping with foam. And that's why, yeah, some of the legs aren't as even, aren't as wonky, but they're buggy. They look buggy. So that's kind of why I do it. And you don't have to do the beads, but if you want to make this adjustable, you gotta kind of do it. I personally love using bigger dry flies like this as, number one, attractors, but also indicators. Something like this can hold up a 2-nymph rig, something really heavy, especially for like the springtime when water's high. You need to get down with a lot of weight. This thing, it'll ride high, and they're basically at the forefront of most of my rigs, especially early in the summer when bigger bugs are hatching, like your salmon flies and stoneflies. But this is, not traditional. You don't see many dry flies tied on a Gamakatsu stinger, and you might be wondering yourself, Mike, why in the hell would you tie on something that strong, that heavy, that big? And it's all personal preference. I really like to have a strong dry fly like this that's gonna hold on to a fish, and I mean hold on. So yeah, it's a little bit extra, but what is it, But at the end of the day, folks, what I want to remind you is that with a lot of the concepts that I show, this is cooking and not baking. There are no exacts. You don't need to get every single thing right to catch that fish. More often than not, the proper profile and a good drift are going to get you so much further than counting out fibers on your pheasant tail. That doesn't make any sense to me. So remember, use the basic concepts and make this fly your own. Make it your own flavor, and I think you'll have more enjoyment out of it, number one, and probably catch more fish, number two. But Folks, that is it. Thank you so much for sticking around for kind of this maybe more subdued content, but this is kind of what it takes in the off season. Gotta get those boxes full again, and yeah, we gotta be able to tie all season if we're gonna fly all season. So folks, wherever you find yourself, be it in your parents' speakeasy or in your backyard, I sure hope you keep those feet in the water, and until next time, tight lines.